Welcome back to 4AZ. I'm your host, Tyler McDowell Blanken. Here we are, our season finale, episode 9. Wow. Thank you for believing in me, believing in us, and supporting this work. A special shout out to all of my guests this season for saying yes and entrusting me with helping share your stories. Tommy, Mariah, Trevor, Ray, Darian, Liz, and Sean. Thank you. It's a family affair on this episode. You'll hear my conversation with Dr. Erika L. McDowell. Erika is a theater teacher, administrator, and co-CEO of Black Wildflowers Fund. Erika shares memories from her time as a student at Howard University, life as a working professional in Philadelphia, and how she's navigated through the education profession. We also discuss Montessori schools, the state of education on the West Coast versus the East Coast, and we share many laughs along the way. Enjoyed this episode, and I hope you will join us next season. Follow us at 4AZ Teach for exclusive updates. I wish you and yours an outstanding, healthy semester. Here is Justice and Joy, a conversation with Dr. Erika L. McDowell. We're joined by Dr. Erika McDowell. Erika, not only is this our season finale, but this episode is so special to me because I'm speaking with my cousin. Cuz, How are you?
I'm great, cuz. Can I be honest with you? One, I'm so honored that I'm a part of the season finale. Kudos to you and all the great, courageous work that you're doing. But also to make this a family affair is just so ancestral and healing. And so honestly, I'm wait, the energy, I don't want to ever get off. How long is this interview so we can talk all day? But thank you so much for having me and sharing space with me. And I see you.
Absolutely. I see you too, sis. Well, thank you. I am honored that you're joining us. Yeah, let's ride this wave for as long as we can, at least for the next 40 to 45 minutes, but hopefully long after that as well. Erika, we're going to jump right into my questions for you. We're going to learn about your story personally, professionally. I'm really fascinated in learning about your journey into education. So you've served in various capacities over the years. I want to start with the beginning, though. You grew up in Paterson, New Jersey.
Paterson all day.
Paterson all day. How did your love of education start?
That is a great question that I feel like because of everything that I've done on my journey, it's never really asked directly. So I thank you for the question. It started out at Rosa Parks School of Fine and Performing Arts. And so that is high school in Paterson, New Jersey, Pegasus all day. And I was a drama major, vocal minor. At that time, when I first got into high school, I just wanted to be an actress. If you asked anybody, and I think you could attest to this, Erika's going to go and make it big and be an actress, right? And so something happened. I think it was my junior or sophomore year. Paterson has a really great project. Shout out to Benji Wimberly, who leads Paterson Recreation. So they hire high school folks to run summer camps. And so I don't know who got this great idea to hire folks from Performing Arts High School to be camp counselors in their area. So I had two friends, we all went to high school together. She was the vocal teacher. He was a vocal teacher. I was the drama teacher, right? We made it work. And it was like a 3-room place with that, right? And that summer changed my life because it allowed me to see my greater purpose in the world. And that even though that we were in this small space, it was a couple of weeks, there were moments where I would go to the grocery store, and I'm used to, my dad is a retired educator, right? So you would think Erika wanted to be a teacher because her dad was a teacher. Not really. It was nice, right? Great. But
Shout out Uncle Warren. Yep.
Shout out Daddy, Pastor Daddy,
Shout out Pastor.
But it was really working with students and then leaving that space and running into students hey, Missy, hey, because they remembered those couple weeks. And so things started shifting for me. So I started looking for colleges, and I still wanted an HBCU experience. My dad is a graduate of Benedict College, so I wanted an HBCU experience. So after looking at different HBCUs, Howard University had theater education as a major. So
Let's
I was
talk
done.
about it. That was my second question for you. You're already just the superstar you are. You're already touching on my second question. Let's talk
That's
about the
how I
Mecca.
got into education. I
Let's
signed
talk
up.
about the Mecca. How was your experience there?
Oh, okay. Ain't you know, shout out to all the bison that may be listening, including a bison that is trying to do her best. We send you good energy as well. I ended up at Howard because of just that. It had the degree and it rhymes. I wanted to leave New Jersey. Not in a bad way, but do you? And I don't know if anybody's on the line where like you're in high school and you're just building. And Patterson, as much as Patterson, like, yes, we were on Lean On Me. Everybody remembers that. It's not the biggest town. We're a small town. You can like know people after meeting 5 different people, right? So I really wanted to be away. Like I feel like I was like, I want to leave. My parents definitely agreed, and they had my major. And so my parents did the courageous work of sending me a week before with my cousin, my other cousin on my mom's side. She lives around DC. I was there to be there a week for accepted students. I met friends, got my ID. And so I was excited about going to Howard. Can I tell you, it was my first couple weeks were like horrible, but in a way where it blessed my life and it changed my life. If someone ever asked me, what did Howard do for you? It helped me grow up and become a woman. I was in Washington, D.C. all by myself. My parents had drove back home and I had to rely on people. I was going into classes. Remember, I went to Rosa Parks School of Fine and Performing Arts. There was no more than 55 graduates. Our school was that small. And so when I got into my first class and they said, okay, 022786674, and I'm just like 0228674, and the girl's like, yo, that's your number? Like, oh, yeah. Shock. And so I felt like, and it's a large campus, right, booming. But can I tell you, I started joining organizations. I joined the choir.
That's when it changed. That's when the switch flipped.
It switched, and it was people in community. Like, can I tell you, I am still dear friends with the folks that I met at Howard. We're going to Ghana together. I have 3 of my Howard friends. We're going to Ghana for New Year's, right? And so Howard taught me community, but also Howard taught me to believe in myself. Like, if no one's going to believe in you, you need to believe in you, and home will always be here in any form or fashion. So I also feel like I have a community of support, even now as an alum, to say, like, you can do any and everything. Put your mind to it, but also tell me the truth of, hey, how are you showing up in the world? Because when I came to Howard, I had a hard Jersey accent. My accent is like kind of weak now, but it used to be.
Back then, you were bringing full Jersey.
I was bringing full Jersey, like. And it was folks who are my friends and my family, like, we love you, Erika, but what are you trying to say? And so I was able to develop I teach epistemology and ontology, right? All of those things. How do I see the world? You know, how do I move in the world? And so that happened at Howard. But the first couple weeks but after that, I had a great time. My daddy gave me a number. So I graduated in 4 years. So it was also difficult for me. I couldn't play. I will say this. Before I went to Howard, and you could attest to this, our Aunt Diane, may she rest in peace, she was so excited, but she was like, I just want you to know, you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's because you can. And I was like, you're right. That, and so I got out in 4 years. I did summer school, right? So
I'm right there with you. We had to
Don't be mad if you got to spend a summer. College algebra and me were not friends, but Howard pushed me to know, like, you can pass. Right. Those teachers were like, I remember a teacher I took, I didn't do well in his class and I withdrew. And he said, the only way I'm going to let you withdraw is if you enroll back in the class next semester.
Wow. And what was your response to that ultimatum?
I was scared. I called my mom and my daddy because it was like, wait, what are you trying to catch me again? Because we didn't have the greatest experience. And can I tell you, I got an A in that class. And that teacher saw something in me because I didn't come in like, and so Howard is just a beautiful experience of people, places, and things. And who doesn't want to go to undergrad in DC? I've been trying to get back to Howard. So yes, Howard, Howard, I sing of thee. That is from my alma mater. Oh, Howard, I sing of thee.
I love that, Erica. I've been on their campus once, and there's just something special about the first time you go to Howard because you hear so much about it. You look at the alumni list online, and it's just there's so much history there. Like you said, it's in DC, history everywhere. Our history on campus and off. It's beautiful. I'm so happy that you not only had a good experience, but are here to share that with our audience because it's very likely that we have HBCU alum checking this
HBCU
out,
all day.
prospective students who are weighing their options, maybe even some in Arizona who are considering if they can do it, if it's going to be worth it. This is a beautiful situation.
Absolutely.
Erica, I want to talk about your career now. So you began as a drama teacher in Patterson. Then stand up. Then transition to an assistant principal in the city you currently call home, Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about that time period in your career, those first, say, 5 years.
Oh, let me get the tears out. Oh gosh, just hit me. And I'm just standing in solidarity with all the teachers who may be struggling right now, right? So we're going back to Erika first year teaching. I did everything what people told me to do. So I went to Howard, got that degree, went to NYU, got my master's degree, studied abroad, lived in London and Ireland a whole summer, right? Came back, got the cert, ready. And I also, what folks know, my dad retired like a year or two before. And Tyler's my cousin, so he knows this, but we look alike, like exactly alike. You can't, if you see my dad, you kind of gonna see me. And so I went into the field very excited, but not realizing that, and I'm shouting out school number 6 is because I feel like there are systems in education that strategically forget certain schools and demographics. And I just want to shout out the leadership and the team at school number 6 is because it was like a quarter of us were new teachers. We were trying to figure out, and it was just like, wait, we're trying to bring arts education, but like fundamentals were not there, right? So like our students were below in reading and writing. And so that was the testament for me knowing like, how can I adapt this job that they hired me to do, but also give our kids what they need to be successful? So that's how kind of I shifted in education out of the classroom because I'm a specialist. So anybody who a teacher have been in a school, we try to put each other against each other. So you got the specials, gym, theater. I know. Shout out to the educators. We not mad. I had one lady tell me that I was a glorified prep giver. And I was like, oh.
Okay, that's out of pocket.
Nah, but it's Jersey, so I ain't even mad. Let me tell you something.
But it's Jersey.
It's Jersey, right? So I'm like, you know what? Great. So you calling my dad a glorified prep giver because he taught art, right? And so when I was doing the work, a lot of my work was like in my kindergarten classes, spotting an alphabet with our bodies because our bodies are our instrument. Mm-hmm. See, switching it just a little bit so my babies could be on point, regardless of do I have theater experience. My 5th grade students, we wrote about Claudette Colvin. Before Rosa Parks got on the bus, she got off the bus. And so my 5th grade students were able to write a choreo poem. But what I realized is that the system was not functioning. That same year, 800 of us in the district got a RIF letter. This is a true story. You go Google it. 800 of us got let go. And you could see I remember our principal, Cora Quince, like the way she had to just tell us we weren't getting hired again. That's actually how I got to Philadelphia. We were all riffed. Some of us was hired back, but most of us weren't. And so that's kind of how I started my consulting work. So I was helping different folks, helping with the local Girl Scout troops. Like, you got to treat the girls right if they're going to be selling cookies. Like, let's keep it funky. These are our babies, right? And so I was doing this work and I had a colleague, again, shout out to Howard. Folks was like, you doing such great work. And I'm over here like making stuff happen, like in my car because I was riffed. And I went on this beautiful interview and it just gave me hope. And they were like, Erika, we see something in you. So we'd like you to like become a part of this organization. And not only, I didn't have the credential to be an assistant principal. Someone saw something in me. Like, and said, hey, we're going to put you a part of this apprenticeship. So I was in an apprenticeship for 1 year. And then I was able to open up one of the first elementary schools in South Philly all day. Hey, Thomas Elementary, Mama E still love you. And so that's kind of how I got into Philly, and also got into looking at the whole child. Right. And so part of my work as assistant principal was to make sure those folks who taught specials felt like every other educator in the building, because children were coming to us. Right. I'm not saying that regular general ed teachers, that doesn't happen, but there was moments where children would just tell me things and do things, and I was able to bridge gaps. Right. And so when I came to Philadelphia and opened this school, right, and started moving, I had at a time where it was like over 650 kids in one school. Right? K to 6.
650. Wow.
Right? And so my work has always been heart-centered, and I'm just going to go where the need is. And so that's how I ended up in Philadelphia. A couple years later, I got an opportunity to work for the school district. And that's where everything started happening. But it started out as a sad moment of I wanted to teach this dream I had, and a system told me I couldn't. And so I can stand in solidarity with how do we create systems where people can thrive, but we also have the money in which to make them thrive, because you don't just lay off 800 people if you don't have the money.
Right.
And
So much of it comes down to funding.
Exactly.
A lot of the challenges we face, we're talking New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Arizona. I
Everywhere,
can say Arizona.
The global community.
Funding, the dollars per pupil. Are we investing in our educators? I know this is your passion.
It's my passion. And I think when people ask me, if you look at my resume, they're like, I said, I've always been called by my heart. That's why I'm here with the Black Wildflowers Fund. That's why Maya and I, shout out to my co-CEO, we looked and said, I'm always that person that, why are we problem admiring? How can we look at something and say, what can I do to dismantle this system of oppression? Because that's really how I became a co-CEO. It wasn't like, I was like, no, there's a system of oppression that says educators cannot thrive and be well and live under poverty lines. And I've had a lived experience of not having a contract for the next year, or not having enough, or pulling my resources. How do I stop that system internationally for every person I touch? Because I don't want anybody to have that lived experience I had. Because guess where I was living? In my mama and daddy basement, right? I want to thrive. I'm not living there no more.
Right. Like you said, you followed those steps of, okay, I graduated from high school. I went to Howard. I graduated in 4 years. And now I've entered my chosen profession. And a year later, okay, this was an unexpected, complete just turn of events. I have to figure things out. So that being said, Erika, did you ever consider leaving education?
Oh, consider leaving education. People tried to poach me. One, my dream as a little child was to be a lawyer. And the closest I got to that was marrying a lawyer. Shout out to my ex-husband. Right? That was the closest I got to it. It was like,
that's pretty close.
Yeah. I had analytic skills. I'm good on my feet.
I can see it.
I've also had an entrepreneur spirit. So to answer your question, there were multiple times I want to do something else. I'm a former Avon lady. I think I sold some to your mother, right? Like I baked pies. Like I was always going to supplement, because I think about our grandfather, right? All he had was these two hands. And so he worked at a company, right? He ran his own barbershop. So that's what kind of pushed my entrepreneurial spirit. So if I'm going to answer, is there anything I want to do? I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I'm sitting here saying that I am. It just manifested in a different way, right? And so that's when I tell people to follow your gut. Like I'm actually doing the thing that I dreamed of, and because I'm a business owner. Inspired Minds Collide. LLC, right? Minority Black woman business, right? So that's what I wanted to be, an entrepreneur, lawyer, and it just evolved. And so, and I'll be honest with you, because I went for all this education experience, it's not the season where it is now, where like, if you really want a job in education, you could get one. That was not the season in 07, 08. We were in big financial crisis, and education was not being funded. And so I think my jump was to be an entrepreneur. And so that's why I started selling Avon and making stuff and doing stuff for people, until the door was going to be open to fulfill my passion. And so I'm glad that it worked out that way. But yeah, I wanted to be a lawyer, but really an entrepreneur, and it manifested. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
That it did. So you're in Philadelphia now.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us
well,
about the difference.
My time. So I will say, people on the line, I am still a New Jerseyan. I am still, I just have property in Pennsylvania, right? so
That's what I'm talking about.
You Google it, you be like, oh no, I'm Jersey all day. That's my driver's license.
Well, okay, that's helpful. This is then perfect, Erika. I was going to ask you, what are the differences between living in Pennsylvania and living in Jersey? Because I've been to Jersey. Obviously, I've spent time in Jersey, not as much as I should, but I've been there. For Pennsylvania, I've been to the Rocky statue. I was there for a few hours. I didn't have a Philly cheesesteak somehow. Please forgive me. But I've seen Creed. I've seen all of them. Shout out Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson. Philly looks like a great place. What are the differences between those two states, since you spend your time pretty equally in both? Being a young professional, being a professional, do you have a preference between the two? Are they totally different?
Okay, so I'm from New Jersey. I will never say a preference because either side will come get me. Oh no, I'm straight East Coast. You won't get a pick.
Asking you, I was going to ask you the tough questions.
Okay, so let me tell you, like I told my students, and I'll say this through my transition from New Jersey to Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. This is when I learned about community, and community can happen either you're born here or not. I tell people all the time, Philly gave me a hug when I needed one, and I never left. And this was 2011. So remember, I got riffed. I ended up here because Philly was hiring folks. Philly was about that life educationally. And I want you to look at Philly's history, like having some of the first Black superintendents who use she, her pronouns, right? Who looked like me, and being driven to Philadelphia has, and I'll say this too, one of my students called it one of my first days. It was like, you're not from here, Miss McDowell. And I'm like, no, I'm not from here. I'm from Jersey. And it was like, well, what you gonna do here? I said, I'm gonna learn and figure it out. And what I used to do was I ate lunch at the stores my kids went to, right? I lived, and if anybody, my friends play with me, I've always rented city proper. So some people be like, oh, I'm from Philly. I used to go to college with people. I went to Philly, and then we came to Philly, and they ain't really live in Philly. They was like in Delaware. I was like,
nah, you're a real one. Yeah.
You're
a real one. You were in the community. You were learning.
Just like what? Jersey for me gave me the foundation of my work in my life, right? And so what I wanted to be as an educator, how I showed up in the world, very proud to be who I am. I think Philadelphia, living in Philadelphia, I feel like I've lived in New York, right? I've lived in DC. Philly is the best vibrational mix of them. So like I can go down to Old City, right? And kick it, or go to Germantown and drive my car. But if I really don't have to, I could take the bus. Where in New York, I used to be like, I don't want to get on the subway. I don't want to do this. Produce in Pennsylvania. Can I tell you, like, New Jersey's the Garden State. We do, look, blueberry capital of the world. Just giving y'all tips on New Jersey. Right?
We learned something new here, yeah.
Produce, and also Philly taught me how to abase and abound. And I tell people all the time, a lot of educators do not work and live in the communities in which they were born. Philly taught me how to do that, of like, I am honoring the beauty and the wealth of this community that I'm teaching in, and I count it an honor and a pleasure to be here. And so it helped me learn, like when you said cheesesteaks, I'm like, where you go? Because I don't eat it, right? Or like learn it as a principle. Like in Jersey, we have like Italian icy. You say water ice here. Like I love water ice. Like water ice is my thing. Or our soft pretzels. There was, as a principal, I used to do like a sale of pretzels in the morning, right? That's something that really wouldn't have happened in New Jersey. Also thinking about the revolutionaries, partially in New Jersey and PA, that brought their education system, right? I mentioned Lean On Me, right? And so when we think about Joe Clarks of the world, things of that nature, New Jersey and Philadelphia both gave me that, wow, we're here and we've made a presence. But when I got to Philly, it was just way more like unapologetic parent groups. Like my parent groups in Philly was not playing with me. They was like, what are you doing here? And then once they figured out I was about kids and about that life, can I tell you, I still talk to some of my parents.
Really?
Yes, because no one wants to co-opt the community. They knew I was there for the kids, and I needed a place to live because I was out in a weary land, right? And they love, I tell you, all of my dentists and doctors are all parent or staff referrals. I still go to the dentist that my first secretary told me to.
For real?
In South Philly. To this day.
Philly.
And so Philadelphia made me pursue opportunities. I think the thing about New Jersey is, and I want to give this to folks who were born somewhere, there is something that I need to do in Patterson. I just can't figure it out yet, but I've been away so long. So Philly's also helping me build those tools that I can go plant seeds in the place I was born. And I think I told you this before the recording, like I want to open up a school in Patterson, right? The tools that I've learned in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, my doctorate's from Drexel University. I don't have a degree from the state of New Jersey. They're from New York, Pennsylvania, and DC. And so New Jersey, I just feel like they're all great. I think Philadelphia has like more of a mix of a city vibe. And again, I grew up in it's the third largest city in New Jersey, but I've lived in all these big cities, so it can come off a little smaller. So I think there's no competition. Everyone's equal. And Philly does have some great food. And that's what I'll say that. And my students taught me that. So I think no one wins. I just know Philly blessed my life. And I would encourage anybody, if you're thinking about moving somewhere, just go do it. If it doesn't work out, go back home. I know I can always go back to Patterson.
Amen. Amen.
I can always go back to Patterson.
What I learned here is that Erika has a future in politics as well. That was a very political yet authentic answer. So in case you see Senator McDowell pop up here in Pennsylvania or Jersey, you know that it all started on 4AZ when you
perhaps I know, Cousin, I'm gonna give you all the credit.
I'm gonna take it. Humbly. So let's go back to Philly. We're gonna stay in Philly, but bring it back to 2015.
Okay.
This is another pivotal point in your career, Erika. Correct me if I'm wrong. School District of Philadelphia. You started out as a positive behavior support coach, then transitioned to Director of Positive Behavioral Systems. Let's go, fam. Okay. And then finally ascending to Executive Director of Student Support Services. Many teachers come to a crossroads at some point during their career. For example, do I look to see what opportunities exist outside of the four walls of my classroom? What advice would you give to someone who is thinking about spreading their wings?
Do it. So let me see. If I'm thinking about somebody who's spreading the wings, I'll give you three things because I got a good preaching in my ancestry. Do it. Do it. Number two, go where you were called. And so I want you to do it, but don't do it just because all your friends are going there. Everybody, I'm right. It's like, how do you, so when you look at my transition, right, I was assistant principal and then I went to being a positive behavior support coach. I loved that job. It was me and four other people, right, trying to help schools open up schools that were positive in nature. That's literally what I do. Are we positive today? Like, that's things that we should innately do. I was coaching on that. And so as I grew in the system, it's very known that I applied for multiple jobs and I never stopped. And you know what I did too? Anytime I went on an interview, I was open to feedback. How could I grow? How do I learn? So one thing that I appreciate about the School District of Philadelphia, shout out, all my friends still work there. Hey, y'all, hey. And I'm honored to also be a consultant for some offices in that district. Love them so much. Like, there is a need. And when you just go do something and you think about where you're going, doors just start opening. The reason I became a director, it was literally like, Erika, you need to do this. What? I had just got married. It was like, I wasn't really looking to move up. I was very happy where I was. I was applying for different things, but it was just like, what's going to happen here? So I took the job and it morphed. What I do is, and this is my third point, a base and a bound. And so if you're going to do it, right, and you're called to that place, like I'm supposed to be here at the School District of Philadelphia right now in 2015, 2016. And it didn't even really matter about the salary. I knew I wanted to work for the School District of Philadelphia and I took a pay cut. That's public too. I took a pay cut because I realized that I wasn't able to do what I needed to do. And can you see how in years later, I became an executive director because I based in Abound, right? I love the fact that I could work with different offices and figure out on a large scale. Philly has over 220 schools, right? And so when I was a director, I was managing 80 in PBIS, right?
80.
Okay. And it was like, whoa. And so I want to give people, like, once you make it and you are based in Abound, I actually sit in a place of whatever's for me will come to me, and I'll have the capacity to receive it. And so that's what happened. I thought that, no lie, this was true. I thought I was getting fired today. They wanted me to apply for the executive director job because anybody knows me. I wear a book bag and I stop everywhere. Like, I had an office, but I'll be like, go use my office. People could have meetings in my office. I do not care. Erika out here in the street trying to support her team of 14 and doing this. And so someone was like, oh, da da da. And I was like, what? And they were like, hey, we just want to tell you you're doing a great job. And have you thought about, I was like, me? But that's when I was my mind was in the work. I wasn't even looking, right? And so I also want us, especially Black folks, that we are not in competition with each other. We're competition of what we believe that we can have. And so that is my advice to you. Do it. If you call to it, know that it might be some hurdles and just a base and a bound. Like, what can I do now in this position? Because I think a lot of folks, because I'm also an executive coach that I'm mentoring, it's like, well, what can I do to get here? And my question is, what are you called to do? And how can it make space for the thing you're supposed to have? Right? And so how do we reimagine stooling, reimagine working? And so that's what I would tell people. Learn the system, get involved. And then there was a moment where, like, people were able to create things for me. But no one would ever have done that if I didn't abase and abound in the position that I already had.
Exactly. And clearly you were excelling. Well, first of all, and I think our audience can glean this already, you excel in not only communication, but relationship building. So what I think will resonate from what you said, Erika, with our audience is that as educators, you're just on the go so often. You mentioned your book bag and, stop it and supporting students. And
y'all think I'm playing? And that
the book bag is right there. Our YouTube viewers can see it. As educators, we get so locked into the day-to-day and what needs to get done that often, unlike other professions, we don't necessarily take the time to step back and see what else is out there. But your journey is a testament that as long as you're doing good work, you're treating people well, opportunities are a natural byproduct. They're going to come your way because you're putting all this good out into the universe. It's only right that's going to be like a boomerang and come back to you.
And that's what I teach.
Abundance.
In abundance. You live in Arizona, cousin. If I got on a plane right now, they're going to say, who they going to put the mask on when they drop? You or the person next to you.
Wow.
You've got to pour from a full cup. And I think sometimes we're out here chasing dollars, chase passions. Money will
Talk about it.
Money will find you.
Talk about it, cuz.
But I think there's some ancestral things and systematically for us as Black people where certain things haven't brought us together. They're tearing us apart. Look, there's money out here for all of us. There's liberation out here for all of us. And so once I got to that point, and let's go back to and I still attest to this day, if it all don't work out, I will go back to Paterson, New Jersey and rebuild it. Because for me, it's worth that song. It's worth that resistance because I'm better off than all of my ancestors. So what's the worst that can happen? Follow your dream and follow your calling because that's going to open doors and that's what's going to sustain you.
I love it. You mentioned, I forget if this was, this is such a great conversation. I'm so happy you're here. I forget if this was during their, I love it, Tyler. I love you too, Erika. This is a conversation we had either at the beginning of this episode or before we recorded. You mentioned that you were a professor. Again, you've done so much already in your career. So in 2022, you became an associate professor at the University of Buffalo. I told our audience in the opening that my cousin, she's the real deal. How was your experience teaching at the collegiate level?
First, shout out to University at Buffalo. Teaching at the university was a much liberating experience. It was something that, again, shout out to everybody. I had a whole job. I was opening in schools, New Jersey with Wildflower, right? I was fundraising and helping folks open schools. And there was this posting, and a lot of my work is around culture, race, equity, and to also occupy spaces where I used to do a training where, when did you meet your first Black educator? And a lot of folks didn't meet their first Black educator until they were in college and graduate school.
That's me.
Right?
I feel seen.
So I, again, took a pay cut because I just want educators to know, like, you will reap what you sow. And so I had a calling to, like, okay. And then when I went on the interview, it was no snow and it was nice. I was like, oh, Buffalo loved me. Let me tell you, I want to shout out all my staff members because I also got very sick there. But I was teaching my master's level students building school district capacity, right? And thinking about equity in education, reading different books and novels. And I'm always about process, not product. So I'm more concerned about how you got here than the product. Because look, anybody been a teacher who got observed and you thought the lesson plan was tight, and then the administrator walked in and it was like,
we've all been there.
We all been there. It's still in college too, right? And so thinking about, I was teaching, so all of my folks, so I was teaching master's level and doctoral level students, right? Sitting on a couple dissertation committees and really thinking about, how do I demystify this notion that everyone can't thrive in all ecosystems? So I have the opportunity to teach folks across grade big. I literally talk to my students. We still connect. They have their own number, right? In their 60s. Like, I have people who are way older than I am. And so how do you create a classroom where the 60-year-old person and the person fresh out of their master's degree, and then the student that you have, right, who's pumping and like trying to get a break, how do we converge thoughts and improve our educational systems? And Buffalo allowed me to dream, like working on my syllabus, like thinking about how I wanted to approach the work. So that was beautiful. But then on the other hand, people know this is kind of public, right? I moved to Buffalo a couple of weeks before my appointment started. I live 6 minutes away from Top Supermarket. Your aunt called me that day and was like, where are you? And I was like, oh, I'm at the supermarket. And I said, what's wrong? She said, I need you to go home. Something happened, because they had visited me a couple weeks before and we were at Tops because we needed some smoked turkey and ham hocks, and Tops is right. Let's just be clear. So that happened to me. And so I'm also a teacher who's stewarding students in a city where we actually had to go teach. We still had to go teach. And then if you fast forward, that December, we had national storms. We lost 40 souls in the street from snow. And so Buffalo was liberating, and I moved there by myself. So my students and I became family. It was like, you good? Like, check on everybody. Let's do this. So I think teaching in higher ed gave me a different perspective on how we support schools and districts. I did trainings for different school districts, right? One of my school districts, we flew to Jackson, Mississippi to say, if you want to be a teacher, we'll pay for it. Move to Buffalo. And we were in community. I didn't work for that school district, but right. And so I think teaching in academia, and I'm going to return when I get healed. Healing is already coming my way. But as you enter, Toni Morrison talks about, you've been prepared adequately for these jobs, but your job, if you are free, you got to free somebody else. That's what I did as a professor. How can I free you from the things that are holding you back from being the best teacher, best superintendent, best principal, right? But it was hard for me because I was this clinical associate professor mourning with them, right? And so that's when kind of I got into more educator wellness, because I wasn't well. I have an autoimmune disease, right? Found out in Buffalo, right? And so teaching, I'm going to go back. So anybody on the line, I might take an adjunct job, but again, I'm trying to rest. I think academia allows folks to have a conversation at a certain age level that we aren't able to have. And also, I worked at a university who said, go for it. How do we build educators and do it in a different way? I was a part of a cluster hire. It was over like 15 Black and brown folks they hired as professors.
Oh.
Suzanne Rosenbluth. That's the dean. That takes courage. She a white woman from Jersey to say, I can't just talk about that. I don't know if I would have took the job if it wasn't so diverse and there was an energy to make it different. And so I hope that my students on the line, they know I love them, that I have the opportunity to enter that space and curate environments where we all learn together, because that's what you really do at the higher ed level. I'm teaching you skills, but also I'm trying to teach you how to work with other people and give this knowledge that you worked for real hard to other people in your ecosystem. But I love teaching. I can't wait to do it again, but that's just not my season right now.
Amen. And that leads perfectly into your work with Black Wildflowers Fund. So we've been waiting for this conversation. You aim at Black Wildflowers Fund to break down the barriers of systematic oppression in education and cultivate a sense of belonging for Black teachers, Black children, and Black families. Erika, tell us more about how Black Wildflowers started, where you're at, and what's ahead.
Started, what's ahead, where we're at, what's ahead. So it started with Maya Blankenship and I. Shout out to my co-CEO. And so I want to shout out, people always ask, you're a co-CEO? Yes, we are better together. My liberation is bound with her, so we working together. So we both were working for Wildflower Schools. She still is energizing the DC area. I'm energizing New Jersey. I have different roles in the organization. So I'm an equity steward. And we used to gather together as Black people at Wildflowers, which was supported by Black. Like literally, one of the biggest points was like, oh yeah, we all have affinity spaces here. Oh, thanks. Right? And so what we started to realize is there are teachers and educators who want to open up schools, but do not have the capital and the resources to do that. And it is not their fault. So we're opening up schools and we're realizing in certain communities that are Black and brown, they're not operating in abundance. Like we're just getting enough to open the doors. Like and our communities deserve more than that. So I think we looked at each other and it was like, we have to do this. And at the time, again, think about it, March 2023. I was still teaching it. March 2022, I was in Buffalo still. Like it was a lot going on and I still had a job. So it's like I was working full time. I was working part-time for Wildflower and it was like, yes, let's open this organization. So we kicked off and we said, look, we're going to focus on three major things. How do we disrupt the system that says only, and this is how I got into Montessori space. I want to tell everybody, I don't have a Montessori background. I am a Montessori advocate and champion, and realized that the reason I did not know or was exposed to Montessori because of the system itself that doesn't see me there. Only 5% of educators in Montessori are Black. So of course you're not going to touch me. It's even lower in general. It's a little higher in general ed, but right. And so I'm doing this work helping open schools, but I don't have the people to open the school credential grant, right? So I pay the Black Wildflowers Fund directly to training centers. So if you're awarded a credential grant from us, we pay your training center directly. So when you go, the bill is zero, right? So another thing we wanted to do is how do we bring educators together to make sure they're not alone? Let's dance at 5. If it's only 5%, what kind of community is that? So last year we were able, and we're going to do this every year. How do we bring people together to exchange and to heal? And so if you look at the data from our convening, it was all of our grantees, right? So you have our credential grantees, also our school startups. So we gave over $300,000 this year to 4 or 5 schools who are opening this year. Why? So they can work in abundance. So we don't have to worry about are the lights getting paid? Can we keep our equitable model of tuition? I don't want you to compromise your vision for a system that doesn't want you to live. So that's our second one. And then in the fall, we have our Ignite grant. So it's like, what is your innovative project? What is the thing that if you had money for it, just an add-on? And so we were able to give a couple schools that. And so where we are now is doing that work. If you want to be a part of that work, let me know. We're going to a school opening in Philadelphia Tuesday, Poinciana, right? How do we liberate this environment where we get more people in the door that are trained? And when they have a dream of opening up a school, they have the capital to do it. And while the school's still opening, they can dream a little. I don't know why that dream cannot happen for Black folks. And so that's what we're trying to disrupt. I'm sitting here as a career educator and I don't own a home. I have like for me, I travel a lot, and I think about the student loan debt that I carry. I come from a 2-parent household. They all had, but college and getting education is just the next step because of systemic barriers we've had as people in regards to money. Everybody didn't get the GI Bill. Some of us who didn't look like, go in the research, right? And so all of us, we were away from wealth. And so how can we bless educators and say, you want to do this work, do it abundantly, and we're not living in the poverty line? And so I'm really happy that we're sharing this journey. We just left, we were a part of the Common Future Accelerator. Shout out to those folks, where I consider myself a futurist. What is that? Where we're going. I am designing and seeing a world and community that I've never seen before. And so instead of, we can talk about, let's make something great again, but if we're honest, let's create something that is entirely ours. Let's create something where we all benefit. Let's look at the data and seeing if we're being paid adequately. Let's look at the community.
That's a bar, cuz.
And so that's where we're going. I'm trying to raise $10 million, right? Because if people ask me, like, you work part-time? Yes. But part of my work is to never have, and that's why I'm so proud of you, cousin, that we break this systemic notion of like educators, we need them, but we give them the least.
It's not sustainable.
Not for Black and brown people. No. We already been systemically marginalized, not on my watch. And so that's what we're courageously doing. We're gathering in Philadelphia next year. When we gather, we get massages. We have private caterers. We rest and learn with each other, right? Last year, I did something about manifesting your educational dream, right? We eat well. Right? The executive director stopped by. Hey, Dr. Aize stopped by that Sunday to see us. So, you know that 5% of Montessorians? If we've given over 35 credential scholarships, don't play with me in numbers. It's got to move a little bit. That's breaking systemic. I no longer want to say 5%. Let it be 6. Let it be 7. And how can we create this so people can feel like we believe in your dream and we're going to hold you all through it? And so that's Black Wildflowers Fund. We planting seeds, baby. We planting seeds.
And they're growing, opening doors.
So I got a little imposter syndrome, cousin. So I appreciate these forums because I think people, when they talk to me, like on paper, it looks very like one of my business. Somebody found a business card of mine. They're like, Dr. McDowell. And then I just start talking. They're like, wow, you are. That's when I tell people, do what you're called to do, because now I'm in a position where, yes, I battle some health concerns, right? I'm doing a lot of things, but can I tell you, this is the healthiest I've been in a couple years because I'm doing the work that's connected, my soul work, right?
It's amazing.
But I do want people to stay well. And so that's why I want people, I send my grantees, we're going to relax, relate, and learn from each other and build these communities because we have what we need. We just need to break systems to access it. And that's not our fault. That's a system fault. Okay, I'm going to stop now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, cousin.
No, you should not be sorry at all.
We didn't end up here. Look, I was thinking about Plymouth Rock didn't land on us. No, but we have to look at the status of our education system and figure out how we got here. What did Audre Lorde say? The master's tools will not dismantle the master's house. Black Wildflowers has come to tell you what tools do we need to dismantle a system that has not benefited us, not only as educators, but as learners.
I told y'all Erika's the real deal. I said that before this question. I'm saying it after. Cousin, that was so profound, and you're leaving us with a lot of food for thought on this episode, which is a perfect time for us to transition to our exit ticket. To close out,
educator!
To close out this conversation, I have a 3-part exit ticket for you. Okay. First one, electric slide, Cupid shuffle, or the wobble.
Depending on as a principal, it's probably 5 million pictures of me doing the Cupid shuffle with a whole bunch of kids. So I'll pick.
Is that your number one? Is that the one you choose over?
No, I think the electric slide can be taught across all generations, and I never want folks to feel on the margin and crowds of age. The electric slide can bring everybody together. I think if you played that for My aunts and uncles, and we like, they not wobbling. They just not gonna do it. Like, they got it. But so how do we bring folks? So I'm gonna say the electric slide and the Cupid shuffle is next. The only reason I'm not saying the wobble because I got arthritis and my wobble looks like a topple. So we're gonna do electric slide. Don't make me wobble. I'm gonna pass out.
We'll see if we can find footage of that. Speaking of bringing the receipts, though, Erika, this next one, I'm going to make sure we insert this in the video. You sent me a picture of us from back in the day. It's a beautiful picture. You told me there is a story behind it that I was not aware of.
Oh, so y'all see in the picture. So that's Kelly. That's my baby sister. Shout out to Kelly. I don't know if we were at a family reunion, but we were at a museum. I think it was the African American Museum in Baltimore. And Ty don't even know this. Like, I know this because I was like of age and everybody wanted him to take a picture. They were like, come on, take a picture. And Tyler was not about that life. And if you see me leaning down and Kelly's like, it's okay. Because we just was like, we'll take the picture with you. Like, everybody was like, and you was like,
that's the light skin in me. You know, we got to charge for this, or you know, it was. I was showing it early.
But you let us touch you, and you like took the picture. That was the best. And we were just like, just take the picture.
Wow. And I was just being difficult.
No, you were being. It was like a. But here's the thing too, and I tell people all the time. As we follow the child, that's what we talk about in Montessori. I think even at my young age, I just followed you. Yes, we need to take a picture, but what does he need right now? Because it must not be this picture. So how do we look at it differently? And guess what? You were much younger than look how you saw his curls, y'all. Y'all saw his curls?
The curls were an era. Yes.
Ty had a curl season.
For our listeners, you got to check out the YouTube. The curls was
there.
I was outside.
It's just loving on my little cousin who did not want to take no picture. And we was like, we got you because they make us take pictures all the time. But it was the best and I'll never forget it. You always my little cuz.
Always. That's such a good way to think about even the work we do as educators, right? What do our students, what do our colleagues, our teachers need in that moment? It's that larger conversation. I love how you bring it back together, Erika. Final part of this exit ticket. What is next for the great Dr. Erika McDowell?
What is next? So in my heart is just keeping this work of liberating and looking at and dismantling systems of oppression that don't benefit us as educators and learners. I'm writing books. So I'm working, I have a book chapter around decolonizing education in classrooms. So that's coming out in the fall. This book is already out. Building Thriving School Communities Focused on Wellness Equity by Leveraging MTSS. Shout out to my co-authors, Lori Lennis and Bridget Walker. Can be found where all books are sold. And thinking about, it is not just enough. And I think sometimes and we could talk about redlining. We could talk about all those things that have curated schools in certain areas to look that way, right? I think sometimes I don't know if it's a McDowell quote, but people always used to say, like, you living beneath your privilege. It's a thing. Like, I feel like mad people in our family don't live beneath your privilege. Like, and so what is the privilege that every learner deserves? And in the book, we talked about how do we create that? And one of the biggest things that I'm working on is love pedagogy. I was just in Memphis, Tennessee, leaning into work of Dr. Martin Luther King, one of our premier educators. And what's missing is love and seeing everything through a love lens. Right. And so in order for you to build equity, giving folks what they need to be successful, you have to see them from a love ethic. And what does that look like? Because then we can start talking about race and culture. If I sat here and said, hey, cuz, you like grits? You can answer it.
I don't like grits.
Y'all, his mama is my daddy's sister, right?
It's true.
Right. And so how do we look at school where, yes, all of our teachers might not pray the same way. If they pray at all, they might not have went to the same school. Our kids look dramatically different based on a community. How can that school still thrive? and looking at that book and seeing how we can focus on wellness and equity to get there. So not only the teacher thrives, not only the system thrives, but our students thrive, so they can keep curating these communities where we live and breathe authentically. So I'm gonna just keep writing. I'm gonna keep traveling. I gotta go to Dubai at the end of the year. I'm just gonna live. I'm gonna live with these two hands, these two hands, these two hands.
Just like Grandpa intended,
just
right?
Like Grandpa.
Just like Grandpa, just like how he did it. Oh man, continuing a legacy, certainly. Erika, thank you so much for joining us. This not only fed my spirit, but I think our audience is taking away so many pivotal points in your journey, and hopefully using that for their own. How can our audience connect with you and support your work?
If you see me on the street, say hi. I go to these conferences, right, Ty? And I'll do a speech or a keynote, and people, I'm like, what's up? I just saw you. If you see me on the street, say hi. I'm on Instagram, Erika the Queen. I am Black Wildflowers, blackwildflowers.org. If you're looking for my LLC work, inspiredmindscollide.com. Shout out to all my clients. We are rocking it out. So we provide professional development, coaching, keynotes, strategic thought partnership around how we can create these thriving communities. How else you can reach me? Ty. He probably knows everything, including all my good addresses, but know that I am accessible. And so please don't ever, and I want to say this too, when you listen to these podcasts and you listen to these places, right, you help me. And so connect with me. Let's figure out how we curate this beautiful society where we can all thrive. But yeah, hit me up. And if I'm a little delayed, it's not denied. I'm gonna always reach back to you. So know, like, if you reach out to me, I'm going to reach back out to you, and I love you. If nobody loves you, I love you. Hit me up in the DMs.
DMs are open. Well, it's a wrap. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Support Erika, follow Erika and all that she's doing. And we'll see you next season.
Bye.